8 p.m. We're reconvened from closed meeting. We go to item 5, board protocol. The Board of Trustees, LaPorte Independent School District is now convened. Wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our number one priority. As the LaPorte ISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to thank our color guard for who are going to be presenting the U.S. and Texas flags. Tonight, we have Cadet Private Michael Williams, Cadet Sergeant Jamie Alvarado, Cadet Corporal Mackenzie Bunch, and Cadet Captain Michelle Springer. Okay, you join me in the pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Forward, march. Color guard, halt. Forward, color. Forward, march.
Will you please remain standing for the invocation will be given by Ms. Deanne Thompson, Board Vice President.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today with such grateful hearts. We're so grateful for every person who's in this room that we know loves your children and works every day with their passion and their heart to work with those kids. Father God, we ask that you continue your blessings on all of us as we preside over this meeting and make decisions in the best interest of what is best for our community, our teachers, and our children. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, you may be seated. And board, if we have a performance today by Jenny Reed Elementary.
Awesome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Mr. Yonda said, Jenny Reed Elementary GT 4th and 5th graders are presenting performance tonight. And with that, I would like to introduce their teacher, Ms. Jennifer Arisco.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for being here. We have for you today, we're doing a little sort of sample of what we do in music class. Sometimes we do this in GT class. Last week we were outside with our drums, endearing the neighborhood to us, I'm sure. And we are going to invite you to join us a little bit. I think we have something that we need to teach you, because did you know you have a part in this too? So we're going to teach you. Nellie is going to stand up and help me teach you a call and a response that we need from you. And y'all help with the responses.
When Miss Orisco goes, Chobwe, you go, hey. And when Miss Orisco goes, let me hear you go, ooh.
Yes. So the call is Chobwe, you go, eh. Okay. Robustly, okay, robust, with gusto, with mucho gusto. Okay, and then let me hear you, ooh. Okay, it's like you just took a sip of Dr. Pepper. Icy cold Dr. Pepper, okay? One of the reasons I like to do drum circle, it helps us listen to each other and notice small changes, and we have to make good eye contact, all these things that are also life skills. I do want to let you know also that these drums, our beautiful drums that we have, are from a grant that I wrote 2 years ago from the Education Foundation, so thank you for that. We love it. I think the name of my grant was I Just Want to Hit Something. And we do, and then my neighbors at school are like, can we not do those today? But that's okay, we do it anyway. All right, so we'll be starting with a welcome song. This, I believe, is from Ghana. So we do also a lot of cultural study, especially in GT. These are just about half of my GT kids. I think I have 24 4th and 5th graders, and about the same K through 3. So here we go. So let's practice for you guys. If I say, Jobwe, hey. Oh, more than that. Jobwe, hey. Jobwe, hey. Let me hear you. Ooh, ah. Let me hear you. Ooh, ah. Oh, really good. You get your hands into it. All right. And then Jobwe, hey. You're raising your hand. Here we go. Change to Nellie's beat, then we'll change to Jaslyn's beat, then Ava, then Kaylee, then Allison, then Deacon, then Kaylee. It's 2 Kayleys. Here we go. You ready? Okay. Mike. When I'm ready to change it, I'm going to look at her. You can't change it until I look at her. Now look at her. So I will start with a rhythm, and then I keep doing the same rhythm over and over again, and then they join, and then we have a kind of a ripple where we'll stop. We will. Tonight. Okay, here we go. You ready? Volunteer, if anyone's brave, would like to come do a drum circle with us.
Go on, Russell. Go on, Russell.
Oh, okay.
Go.
I know this is first day. This is like baptism by fire. Yeah. Okay. So don't change anything until someone looks at you. Then you just pretty much do whatever. Okay. And then let's practice the stop. So 4, 3, 2, and then stop. Perfect. They're higher. Very good. All right. Here we go. Would you prefer add the beat or sure. Pass the beat? Add the beat.
Add the beat.
Okay, so
Add the beat's the best.
you will think of something short that you repeat over and over until someone looks at it. And then we stop. Yes. Okay, here we go. I have confidence in you. So I'm going to start. Don't start until someone looks at you. Okay? I mean, nicely. I know you look at Jasmine. I
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I just wanted to share their names so they can wave at the audience. Kaylee Brenson, Allison Kirk, the other Kaylee Quinn, Ava Smith, Keegan Willis, Jaslyn Espinosa is here, and Nellie Ortiz. And Miss Arisco, thank you so much.
Another excellent performance. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. Yes. Okay, board, if you will join with me in front of the dais, we're going to student and staff recognitions.
Was that an outstanding performance or what? We have a lot of honors, a lot of recognitions this evening, and we're going to start with our 22-23 Teachers of the Year. Each year around February and March, staff members at LaPorte ISD campuses select the Teacher of the Year. Honorees are chosen by their peers for their ability as skilled teachers and a love of teaching and learning, among several other characteristics. Our campus teachers of the year are the cream of the crop, and we are first going to recognize our elementary school teachers of the year. When you come up, if you would go greet the board and hang out up there for a photo, I would greatly appreciate it. From Leo A. Rizzuto, Debbie Ali. From Jenny Reed Elementary School, Crystal Ramos. College Park Elementary School, Audra Mazariegos. Bayshore Elementary School, Ann Eady. LaPorte Elementary, Kelly Leonard. From Heritage Elementary School, Marisol Guevara. And Lomax Elementary School's Campus Teacher of the Year, Ms. Jacqueline Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, your 22-23 Teachers of the Year Elementary. Thank you and congratulations. Now we move to our 22-23 Secondary Campus Teachers of the Year. We start with Lomax Junior High School, Jason Wojtek. From the DAEP, Wayne Drastata. James H. Baker, 6th grade campus, Francis August. The Academy of Viola DeWalt High School, Tiffany Heasley. LaPorte High School Corps, Peter Becknell. LaPorte High School Non-Corps, Lee Martin. And the Campus Teacher of the Year from LaPorte Junior High School, Ms. Pamela Swain. There we go. Congratulations. Thank you. Now we move on to our 22-23 Rookie Teacher of the Year. Ms. Julia Cadriel came to LaPorte ISD as a student teacher during the 2021 school year and was hired to work her first teaching job right here at LaPorte Elementary School. Even during her tenure as a student teacher, she exhibited the qualities of a seasoned veteran. By the way, I didn't make that up. People told me that. Julia has an excellent rapport with students, parents, and her colleagues. She's also known for her ability to create engaging student lessons. Finally, she goes with the flow. Her job here was planned to be that of a first grade teacher, but she graciously accepted a role as a kindergarten teacher because, quite simply, there was a need. Ladies and gentlemen, we recognize Julia Cadriel as LaPorte ISD's Rookie Teacher of the Year.
Come back and just stand in the middle here. There we go. Yeah.
Now we would like to honor our 21-22 Principals of the Year. Dr. Alicia Upchurch and Diane Whedon were honored April 8th by Region 4 ESC as LaPorte ISD's Principals of the Year. Upchurch is principal of James H. Baker 6th grade campus. Whedon is principal at Jenny Reed Elementary School. Here's a little bit more for you. The selection process for this, district administrators select honorees based on several criteria, including a multitude of attributes that contribute to staff and student success. And I want to read a quote here. In the words of Dr. Linda Wadley, Dr. Upchurch and Ms. Whedon are, quote, dedicated leaders who work collaboratively with all staff and administrative colleagues, and they are committed to continuous improvement efforts that support student performance. Our Principals of the Year, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody just like that. I can see everybody. Here we go. 3, 2, 3, 1. All right.
Congratulations and thank you. Finally, we would like to now recognize the LaPorte Education Foundation. The annual LaPorte Education Foundation golf tournament held on Wednesday, April 20th, raised more than $32,000. A few months ago, foundation volunteers worked tirelessly to bring the Harlem Wizards to town and raised about $27,000. Now, these are just two of the many events that the LaPorte Education Foundation holds to raise funds for innovative, creative instructional projects that benefit students and teachers of LaPorte ISD, such as the drums earlier this evening. Over this past year, the foundation has awarded $125,000 in classroom grants. Right here. They've awarded many thousands more in special grants through the Harris County Department of Education and other entities. LaPorte ISD is eternally grateful to our foundation and all of its efforts through the years to help make great things happen in our classrooms. Thank you. The Foundation Board of Directors includes Michael Berry, Brock Bim, Christopher Clinton, Melissa Crutcher, Vance Darr, Doug Dietrich, Ruben Farias, Kelly Frierson, Ken Fruge, Rick Helton, Katumi Isaka, Dr. Walter Jackson, Brian Kinkoff, Stan Lewis, Vanessa Maduja, Jeff Martin, Roderick Moore, Mr. Lemonade Day himself, Frank Nance, Rhonda Pelton, Mason Perez, Michael Swain, Debbie Wade, Jake Williamson, Brian D. Wilson, and finally, Charlotte Penny, the Foundation's Executive Director. Ladies and gentlemen, the LaPorte Education Foundation, thank you so much for all that you do.
He never saw.
moving that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, well. Yeah. Yeah. We do a lot during the meet. We'll make a difference awards too for each campus. Each campus, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll go to item 7, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Ms. Thompson, do we have anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, we'll move on. With the permission of the board, I'd like us to move directly to item 10A. Are there any objections? Okay. 10A, approve hiring of Associate Principal of LaPorte High School, Director of School Nutrition, Executive Director of Secondary Education, and Executive Director of Special Programs. Okay, sure thing. Dr. Jackson?
Well, thank you, Mr. Board President. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Hannah Brooks. Hannah, would you stand, please? Ms. Brooks currently serves as the Dean of Instruction at Hallsville High School in Hallsville ISD. Prior to this role, she served as an assistant principal in Pine Tree at Pine Tree Junior High in Pine Tree ISD. Additionally, she has served as a STEM teacher, a math teacher, and elementary teacher. Ms. Brooks earned her bachelor's degree from Howard Payne University and her master's degree in curriculum and instruction, specializing in mathematics from the University of Texas at Arlington. She has 14 years of service in education, and Ms. Brooks is excited to join the LaPorte ISD family, and we look forward to her serving, if with the board's approval, with her serving our students in this new role. Let's give her a hand. So Ms. Brooks, we're going to introduce all of our recommendations to the board, and when the board votes, then we'll congratulate you again. But I would like for you to introduce the guests that you brought, okay?
Yes, this is my husband, Brian Brooks. Thank you, and we do have 3 children, one's in college, one's about to graduate high school, and then we have a sophomore, and
we opted to leave them at home so they wouldn't get home so late tonight and this week, so.
Certainly understand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. At this time, we'd also like to introduce to some, as we say, and present to others, Mr. Ralph Wilkins. Ralph? Ralph borrowed one of my suits. Wow. I'm just joking, Ralph. You know, just playing with you, Ralph. Mr. Ralph Wilkins has served as the LaPorte ISD coordinator of school nutrition for the past 7 years. Prior to this role, Mr. Wilkins served as a nutrition supervisor and dietitian in Texas City ISD. He also served the community in the nutrition departments of Memorial Hermann Southwest and Texas Children's Hospital. Additionally, he was a contract paralegal for 8 years in the United States and a United States Army paralegal for 4 years. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition from the University of Houston, Master's degree in Finance and Business Administration from the University of Houston Clear Lake, and a Master of Science in School Nutrition from Texas Woman's University. He is a registered nationally and a Texas licensed dietitian. We are proud that Mr. Wilkins chooses to serve in LaPorte ISD, and we look forward to him serving in this new role, and we're very, very proud to present him to our board and to our community. Let's give him another hand. Ralph, would you like to introduce your guest?
Yes, this is my wonderful wife, Angela Wilkins, who's my hero, and she's a teacher at T.H. Robinson.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. Miss Billy Trader, would you please stand? Let's give her a hand as she stands. Ms. Trader currently serves in the role of Assistant Director of Secondary Special Education in the Clear Creek Independent School District. She has served in education for 21 years, including 10 years of teaching experience and 11 years as an administrator. Prior to her service in Clear Creek ISD, she served as a Special Education 504 Coordinator, Assistant Principal, and Instructional Specialist in Texas City ISD. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Houston Clear Lake. We are excited to welcome Ms. Trader as she joins the LaPorte ISD family in the role of Executive Director of Special Programs. Let's give her another round. Would you like to introduce your family?
Yes, I would. This is my husband, Jacob Trader, and he is a graduate of LaPorte High School. My daughter, Emma, and my son, Samuel, on the end.
And last but certainly not least, Miss Paula Jackson. Please stand, Paula. Ms. Paula Jackson has served as the Director of Human Resources in our district for the past 2 years and is a valued member of our Human Resources team. In her current role, she assists with recruiting, hiring, and training new and current teachers and staff. She collaborates daily with our campus administrators and departments. Prior to joining the LaPorte family, Ms. Jackson served as the principal of Hardin Elementary and Hardin ISD. She also served as the academic dean at Barbers Hill Middle School, assistant principal at Barbers Hill High School, and as a classroom teacher in Barbers Hill ISD. Additionally, she served as an elementary classroom teacher in both Crosby ISD and Goose Creek ISD. She has 28 years of service in education. She earned her bachelor's degree at the University of Houston and her master's degree from the University of Clear Lake, and she also holds the superintendent certification. I hope you don't have to use that in LaPorte. Ms. Jackson, we're proud that you choose LaPorte ISD, and we look forward to the outstanding work that you will continue to do alongside our curriculum and instructional team. And I'm recommending her board as the Executive Director of Secondary Education based on your approval. Let's give her a hand. Paula, do you have a guest?
I do. This is my husband, Robbie, and he's my biggest supporter, so I'm glad to serve with you tonight. And just thank you, Dr. Jackson and the board, for the opportunity to serve in this role, and to our secondary schools and our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, board, I am seeking a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the hiring of the associate principal for LaPorte High School, the director of school nutrition, the executive director of secondary education, and executive director of special programs as recommended by the superintendent.
Okay, Ms. Thompson's made a motion.
Second.
Mr. Shoppe has seconded. A call for the vote is unanimous. Welcome to LaPorte.
And you've already thanked me, but you need to thank the board.
Don't try to be rude. You don't get to be the front.
Stay still, we'll fly.
Okay. Okay, board, we'll go to item 8, administrative reports. Superintendent's report, Dr. Jackson.
So, Mr. President and the board, my comments will be short. We've got several presentations tonight, but I will preface those presentations with, hopefully, after tonight, you, along with our listening audience, will walk away from here feeling quite optimistic about the future of our district and the future of what we're planning to continue offering for our students. And so with that, I'd like to lastly give a great big shout out to our entire principal staff. You know, I don't know how it happened, but National Principals Day happened on Sunday while we were all still in bed or something. But I just want to recognize our principals and say one more time, I mean, I know there's opportunities that we do that throughout the year, but how much we appreciate their hard work and their leadership. They're leading through the most challenging and daunting times in the history of public education, literally, in America. And so to all of our principals, all 13 of you, we say thank you, we appreciate you, we love you, and keep on keeping on. Thank you so much. With that, I will ask our athletic director, Coach Alicia Thompson, to come to the podium and give us an update.
All right. Okay. Good evening. Tonight I would like to provide the board and the community with a follow-up report to the public comments that were provided to us by both parents and students at the April board meeting. We certainly appreciate their willingness to share their concerns, and we want to make certain that the board and the community knows that those concerns did not go unheard. My report tonight is both informational and solution-based. I'll share with you some relevant facility information and also our findings as we investigated those facilities based on the concerns that in the public comment section. and finally, solutions to those concerns. Our first step in the process, so this is just a general outline of our response. So our first step in the process was to meet as an administrative team to identify areas of focus or specific concerns from the public comment section in the board meeting. We then completed a comprehensive tour of the LPHS athletic facilities, specifically the field house and also the competition gym. And then lastly, we met as a team to debrief and identify any findings in those tours and also plausible solutions to those problems. Specific concerns that we were able to identify from the public comment section were three things. First, restroom accessibility in the field house, specific to our female coaching staff and also our female athletes. Second, restroom availability in the competition gym. And then lastly, just a general state of the facility specific to pest control in the competition gym. So we can't, I guess we could get out and tour all the facilities, but I wanted to provide the board with a general orientation of those two facilities, the groups that are housed within those facilities. I think it's important for everyone to have a clear understanding of who's where from a locker room and coach's office perspective. So that's the field house. Again, in this area, the concern that we wanted to address was restroom accessibility. Within this building, it's primarily a football building. We house our freshman locker rooms, our junior varsity locker rooms, football locker rooms, and also our varsity football locker rooms. In addition, our football coaches' offices, storage areas. We have 2 meeting rooms in that space. And then lastly, our weight room, which is the larger weight room of the two. And again, if you guys have any questions or need me to clarify any of this as we progress, just feel free to interrupt. So as you walk into the field house, you can go to the right, you'll be able to access actual locker rooms, which that's kind of unchanged since the renovation. To the left, you can access the weight room. So the picture that's to the left is kind of it shows the weight room for the most part in its entirety. So in this weight room, we have 20 platforms, and that can accommodate approximately 60 students. If you look at the next picture on the left side, it's from the vantage point where your back would be to the stadium and you're facing what would be the junior lot. So you can see that this is square footage wise, and also from a weight room equipment standpoint, it's the larger of our two weight rooms. What you're seeing here is another picture within the weight room. The door that's open is our coaches' offices. There's an area inside the office where our assistant coaches are housed. They have cubbies. And then beyond that, there's our head coach's office. As you step in, which is the next picture that you see to the right, you'll see a restroom that's located to the left side. And that's something that, in terms of, from a solution standpoint, we'll talk a little bit more about how that particular restroom will come into play. I also wanted to provide the board with information as far as what accessible restrooms are available to our students outside of the field house or behind the field house or in the stadium. So relevant to soccer, when students are outside practicing soccer or during competitions, we have restrooms that are accessible to them on the home side, which would be the south end, and that's what you're seeing in that first picture there to the right behind the golf cart. That's our home side primary concession. And those restrooms are available during practice times, athletic period times, and competition. Also, on the visitor side, which would be the east side of Bulldog Stadium, there are restrooms available there to our student athletes when they're utilizing the field itself or the track.
So both sets of those restrooms are open?
We have, typically our athletic trainer will open because that's kind of where he's stationed to be centrally located, is right by the visitor side, so he'll open up those restrooms. We do have to make sure that we secure the facilities, between athletic periods, so it's just a matter of, and we'll get to that as well, is just communicating the needs. If something's not unlocked, or if we forget to unlock it, we can certainly take care of that.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So what were our findings? And again, we're going to go back to that, the restroom inside the coach's office that I spoke of in the previous slides. our findings was that there was not a visibly accessible restroom for our female coaches and athletes in this space. The restroom inside the coach's office, I think over time it's been designated as has been made available to our female athletes and coaching staff, but it hasn't been clearly visible to them, or through turnovers and their coaching staff maybe not communicated to those new coaches to in turn communicate to our students. So again, improved communication, communicating the location, if there's any sort of activity inside that area, communicating to our staff and certainly any visitors that there is a restroom that's available. And then second, we've actually, and you can see that the placard, we've replaced it. It clearly identifies it as a unisex restroom with handicap accessibility. We've also changed the locking mechanism inside, so once in, you can lock it, and it can't be accessed once someone's in there and they lock it.
And that's inside the coach's office?
Yes, which is easily accessible from the weight room.
Is that okay for a female student to walk inside the coach's office to do that?
The door when we're utilizing the weight room, the door is open. There is access to the locker rooms behind, but there's not a clear, line of vision to that. Anything else?
How long ago is this? When was it? If I'm recalling correctly, when I was in school in 1999, wasn't the girls' track cross country housed in the field house? When did they?
I think 2018-19. I believe was the school year that it was renovated. And those sports, the girls' sports that were housed in the field house were moved to the competition gym because it was basically the same footprint, just, reorganizing, making room for the freshman football team because their facility, the old freshman field house, is pretty dilapidated and, there has its own set of issues. So moving them in here and moving, in all actuality, those girls' sports to the competition gym where they have bigger locker rooms. Prior to the renovation, it was very narrow closet-like cages.
How much of the time did they utilize the actual field house?
It would be, and we'll get to that as a additional solution. We can help to alleviate the need for them to be in the field house from just thoughtful scheduling. The Bulldog Center, if you notice in this picture, it looks a lot like the field house because the equipment is essentially the same. It's a smaller space in that there's fewer platforms. There's 14 platforms as opposed to 20. But from a restroom accessibility standpoint, there's greater access to facilities and in number in our Bulldog Center. And so I've had conversations with our strength coaches, to just be thoughtful about our scheduling when we're in terms of our athletic programs.
Have you said the other weight room had 20 platforms and could accommodate 60?
Correct. And
am I right? Is this one 14 would be 42?
Yes, ma'am. It's 42.
Okay.
And typically for that space, our field house weight room, it's for our sports that have a larger participation number, which would be obviously football, and our bigger sports that have more students.
So just out of curiosity, how many stalls are actually in our field house for our male athletes?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to speak to that.
How many restrooms?
Restrooms.
We're talking one
Right.
restroom. It's
Right, but and that's
in that space.
right.
And obviously our male side has access to more stalls.
Right. On the freshman side, there's 4 stalls, but also that's their locker room space.
Right.
That's kind of the difference in how I think the approach. For our female athletes utilizing the field house, it would be for the weight room. If thoughtful scheduling is not an option, then we would use the field house for that. So it's not their locker room space. And that was kind of, I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that.
And I do understand it's
right.
not their locker space, but we're talking, they're sharing it with coaches and everybody else. So, there are different, our female athletes do have different needs. And for that space in particular to have to be shared regardless, there are already some uncomfortable situations there.
And I understand. Right, I appreciate it. And I feel through thoughtful scheduling, I feel like that we can remedy that. And if we can schedule utilizing the Bulldog Center.
So basically, the thoughtful scheduling is gonna be, the girls are gonna be at the Bulldog Center mainly, and the boys will be at the,
But again, you know, our field house is the biggest issue is seventh period athletics, which is going to be our freshman football period. You know, and we have most of our girls' sports are seventh period. So, you know, from a scheduling standpoint, from our strength conditioning program, our sports again that have the most students will need to utilize the field house. So it's almost, you know, just from a need and a scheduling standpoint, people land, you know, where they need to from a enrollment standpoint or a participation standpoint.
And if I may just add, I mean,
Yeah.
certainly
Yes.
you're answering their questions, and I appreciate you guys asking those questions. But to me, as an outsider coming in, it looks like we're working to make a good situation out of a situation
Yes.
that was built years ago
Right.
for boys only. And so,
Absolutely. Yes.
and Coach and I have talked about it, and we kind of talked a little bit about it. This is not something that will probably be a permanent fixture, because clearly something else is gonna have to happen
Right.
moving down the road, and it may be, construction of facilities for that.
Right, and that was,
If
you
we're
know,
gonna really do this right.
kind of our motivation was to figure out a solution that was immediate and that we could implement.
and that's what I was gonna ask, is it gonna be a temporary thing that we're
Until
gonna
we can
fix
do that,
later?
yeah.
Right.
Because that was on the renovate 3 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't years ago. That's really recent that they didn't have the girls
They
in there.
had girls and guys in there at the time, and they made it all.
And you know, again, and I'll just reiterate, we're looking for immediate solutions to a problem, and you know, outside of construction.
Is there a space we could renovate maybe during the summer? Is there any kind of office we could repurpose into a restroom?
We didn't go that far just yet, Jeff, but that certainly is plausible. I don't think it could happen I don't think it can happen by August 1st or anything. I don't want to overspeak with that. But clearly, there's going to have to be something that we do that becomes a permanent kind of thing for us. So this is a
Band-Aid.
A Band-Aid, thank you.
It's kind of before a lot of our times, but what was kind of the logic behind not having a female restroom?
I don't know, that was done before I got here.
Anybody?
I wasn't involved in.
I hate to answer like
that.
Right, yeah.
But when I can use it, I will. You know?
Right.
I mean, forever and ever, there was a female restroom, like multiple
That's
restrooms.
what I'm saying, I remember.
And now there's not, so I mean, I can understand their grief and their anxiety of not having a restroom.
Well, and we're working to try to remedy that.
Right.
We moved those programs to the Bulldog Center, the girls' programs, the track and.
Where there are adequate facilities.
Yes, there are, but it doesn't satisfy the need when they're on the field. It's a little bit longer back to the rest. And the reason the field house was renovated the way it was to be able to move the freshmen down there too, because when it was built back in, I don't remember the year right now. It was adequate in size, but then our program grew and we put the freshmen down in a dungeon. It was inadequate and not very good.
So probably caused other issues with the freshman
Yes.
concerns, right?
So that's why.
You did mention that facility is dilapidated. What is that currently being used for?
I would say storage.
Storage of equipment, athletic equipment.
And for what it's worth, I mean, you know, we talked about attendance and enrollment and all that, but the Port has grown from when we started doing some of these things. I mean,
Right.
even programs have grown, and so we're not making any excuses. We're just trying to figure out what's gonna be the best plan from now, and then as we continue to meet together, we'll come up with a better solution to bring to everybody for you to kind of help us. There may be a need for more building or a new construction of something.
Yes, sir. Any other questions about that concern?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the second concern that we focused on in our just call it investigation, if you will, restroom availability in the competition gym. So just again, as an orientation of the groups that are housed there, boys sports, track and cross country, their locker rooms and coaches' offices are in this building. Soccer, boys soccer locker rooms and coaches' offices, our swim locker room for boys. On the girls' side, track and cross country, locker room and offices, girls' soccer locker room and office, swim locker room, a girls' PE locker room, and then of course the gymnasium. So from these pictures, if you look on the left side, that's facing the junior lot. So the double doors that you see ahead of you would open up into the junior lot. The boys' locker rooms and coaches' offices are on the far end. And I don't know if you guys can see, probably not, but there's an area that kind of juts in that separates the boys section from the girls section. The picture to the right is just focusing on the girls' soccer locker room specifically. All of our locker rooms, for the most part, there's a few in the Bulldog Center that aren't set up this way. They have a Jack and Jill type setup to where there's two locker rooms that are shared by different sports, same gender, and then there's a restroom on the back side. And that's how the restrooms for the soccer locker room are set up. So you'll see, this is the actual soccer locker room, girls soccer. On the back side, the door is the access point to the restrooms. So as you walk in, behind the locker rooms, you'll see that there's the 4 stalls, and those are restrooms that are shared with girls track. And just from as a point of reference, and we've talked about the girls being in the field house, years ago, they would share between 5 different sports 4 stalls. So this setup allows for 2 sports to share the 4 stalls. On the back side of these restrooms, we have shower stalls as well, and then there's sinks to the right of the stalls. So we can recognize that during athletic periods or any time that these 2 groups converge upon the facility, that there may be some issues with stall availability. Especially when our coaches are trying to motivate our kids to get out there on time to maximize that athletic period. So there are additional restrooms available in the competition gym. The pictures that you see on the left side is the front foyer of the competition gym, and then once that's the girls' restroom. Once you enter the restroom, you can see that we have about probably 14 to 15 stalls that could be available. So again, I think just communicating that to staff and to students that those restrooms can be available during athletic periods, either upon entry into the athletic period or after they get dressed and they need to utilize the restroom. Those restrooms can be available for students during that time. Yes, ma'am. Any questions about? I'm sorry, I hit next.
I heard last time, I think you mentioned, what is the policy on closing the restrooms? What does that mean?
At the high school?
Yeah, how does that work? I'm sorry.
I don't know if Mr. Grammer will speak to that, but I know that we, just on an athletic side, we really try to just, again, and I mentioned it with the actual stadium, to lock those restrooms down because we've had a lot of damage to our restrooms. And so that's the key. It's just, remembering to open them back up whenever they need to be utilized.
So, yeah, at the high school, we've had some issues with students gathering in the restrooms, a lot of vaping going on there, and then some actual vandalism. And so what we've done is during passing periods, not all the time, but a lot of the time, we'll close the restrooms during passing periods, let students get to class. Then we can control the volume of students in that restroom much easier during class time. If there's damage or if there's a problem with the restroom, we do close them on occasion and lock them up, and they may be locked for a few days until we get whatever the problem may be. Depends on how serious the problem is. So we try to keep them open as much. We monitor them. If we have security guards in front of those sometimes now to try to help monitor the number of kids going in and out of restrooms. So I don't want to say that there's any specific pattern because we kind of vary it depending on the restroom issue at that time, but we have had to do some different things this year because of some the vaping issues that we have, and we're trying to keep numbers. We don't want 15 kids in a restroom if we can avoid it, and so we know that that's not productive.
The passing periods, I mean, like between class periods?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are they open during lunch periods?
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's more about safety and.
That's all. Yeah, that and taking care of our facilities. Yeah, and making sure that our facilities are taken care of. So.
I'll remind the board that the court went through something that school districts all over the nation went through. In the fall, TikTok told the kids to take the urinals off the walls and things of that nature. And that was a big deal, am I right? And every school district in this nation experienced that. We weren't the only ones, and so some of that is just safety and making sure we can control the number of folks in those restrooms at the same time to not be doing those kinds of things. That's just the world that we live in now.
And then the last focused area that we looked into was pest control issues in the competition gym. So fortunately, I don't have any pictures to share of pest control issues. That's fortunate. But you know, there's a lot of things. You know, again, the two solutions that we came up with. I mean, a lot of our coaches already do this. They already ensure that these things are happening. So it's just happening. So it's just a matter of, you know, communicating and reiterating consistently with our staff members and students. Mainly, number one, to remove the food sources. If there's not food in those areas that's accessible, then, you know, that's going to help to deter the rodents themselves. So generally speaking, food will not be allowed in locker room spaces. I know that this is something that we, in the Bulldog Center, that we try to ensure that that's not happening. Specific to the competition gym, students can eat in the gym areas or the front foyer areas. There's a table in there, I believe, and in the hallway areas, and they can dispose of their trash in those areas as opposed to the locker rooms. Again, we understand that students are going to want to go grab meals before games, and we want to make sure that can still continue, but we're just going to designate areas where they can have that food. Food items should be stored in a safe and enclosed container, on cabinets preferably. We understand that some coaches provide snacks or have snacks available to students for early morning practices or for meets or games or competition. We just need to make sure that those items are stored in enclosed containers. And lastly, locker rooms should remain clean. Items shouldn't be left on the floor. The custodial staff should have the opportunity to clean those spaces without having to avoid items that are on the floor. And it's just good practice for our athletic teams to clean up their spaces. Second solution, improved communication. Facility expectations should be communicated to those students. Again, that's already happening in a lot of cases. We just need to make sure that those conversations are consistent. Students will be encouraged to share concerns immediately with their coach or an adult. So if there's an issue where there's no toilet paper in a stall or something along those lines, we want to encourage our students to talk to our coaches or an adult so they can relay that information to the athletic department. And anything that needs repair, anything that needs cleaning or supply replenishing, you know, we want to make sure our coaches communicate that to us so we can submit the proper work order or get the appropriate person contacted. And that's really, you know, again, these solutions, as I mentioned before, are immediate, I feel. We can and have implemented these solutions already. And again, if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as thoughtful scheduling, how often will it happen that all the football coaches would be at the field house and a girls' soccer or track or basketball team would be in there utilizing the weight room?
Through thoughtful scheduling, not that often, if that makes sense. We would really try to utilize the Bulldog Center as that location. And honestly, from a standpoint of the size of the teams, typically the Bulldog Center accommodates our smaller sport teams because of the size.
But does a student have time to be at the competition gym and check in with the track coach and go all the way to the Bulldog Center to lift weights and get back?
It's a few more yards. Typically the student will check in with a track coach, and then we'd have a track coach or a soccer coach that would meet them at the actual weight room. Would be how I would recommend. So the students aren't unattended as they walk to the facility.
Okay, those are my two thoughts.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess mine's more of a concern. Certainly no expert in code, but I guess I don't see how we can legally have a building that is both male and female use and only have one stall. How is that legally acceptable I have a Chamber of Commerce office that we just built, and my small little office, we had to have multiple stalls for both male and female. So I just don't know, are we, liability wise, Chris, I mean, how is this legally possible for us to only have one stall for females?
Did the unisex signs help with that, or is that a different issue? Unisex signs?
Right. I mean, I think that's what because that's still, I mean, to
But it's still-
your question, it's still one restroom.
You cannot, you have to have like.
A certain funding based on your, how many house or whatever, that's what I thought it was.
Good evening. As Coach Thompson talked about, we toured the facilities. It was several of us, and we did, and thank you for including me in that. And we had some questions about just that when it was renovated and some of the changes that were made to accommodate the football program that had grown in numbers, and thinking about how that field house became perhaps that particular weight room was more for larger groups, as she talked about the more platforms that was explained. And then it was explained that the Bulldog Center, though it's not exactly the same size, those platforms do accommodate, and there are more restrooms in that facility that can accommodate females. So those two and facilities being very similar in that they're accessible to females and males at the Bulldog Center, and that is what we talked about. Besides possible in the future, if there would be a budget or something to be able to do some construction or renovation that might be needed to that field house. But that is what we discussed, was those two facilities that are very similar when they were constructed, as far as the weight rooms and those platforms that are available to athletes. I don't know if that answers your question completely.
I would just ask, I guess further ask, I mean, we have a plethora of construction managers around here. We're consulting a bond. I mean, they should be able to tell us pretty quick, what is if they're gonna build us a new field house, and it's multi-use, what's the square footage we need to dedicate to female restrooms, right? That should be a pretty straightforward, simple question.
That's a code issue.
Yeah, that's a code
It's
issue.
a code issue.
Right, I mean, but how are we bypassing that code is my question.
Well, right now, we're just putting the Band-Aid on like.
Right, which I understand, y'all are kind of in a possible situation, but what I'm saying is, we're setting ourselves up for, I mean, we could get into legal trouble.
Well, obviously, if we do get a new
I'm trying not to
stadium,
put
they'll all
the
be
cart
taken
before
care
the
of.
horse here, but, you know, there may be some opportunities for something different, in the near future, if we can make it happen. We realize this is an issue, right? And we're trying to put a Band-Aid on it, but it's a temporary fix. And so, to answer your question, Jeff, I mean, I think there's gonna have to be something a lot more definitive for this, and there's gonna be some process to it. And I'm just trying not to paint myself and ourselves in a corner, but the answer is gonna be, there's probably gonna have to be some other things happen.
Yes, there's some have to.
Yes, some construction.
And I will say, just as a part of the discussion that was had about scheduling, just looking at, and after our tour, as well as our initial conversation, I know that there was a lot of conversation about our strength coaches about, is it possible to have the female sports use the Bulldog Center, where there is lots of accessibility to restrooms. And the seventh period is what I believe y'all were discussing, and that was a strong possibility that could be done. Yes, and that was the solution at this time, one of the best solutions that we could come up with, short of renovation at that time.
And girls weightlifting in the Bulldog Center exclusively?
Well, just to clarify, do you mean only females would be using the Bulldog Center, or are you, okay?
I'm not saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
boys couldn't.
Right.
I'm saying girls only. As in, girls wouldn't need to go to the field house anymore.
Correct. I mean, that's really, working with our strength coaches, that's what we're working to accomplish.
What you're working towards.
Yes, ma'am. For the purpose of restroom accessibility.
Well, and it's a premier facility.
And it's, yes, ma'am. With a view, their windows.
Yeah. Well, to Jeff's point, I think we might ought to go that route before we get into some trouble in the other situation.
And the reason why I asked Ms. Viator to come up, because as she's HR director, but she's also our district Title IX coordinator. So she was there with that lens for that. And so, again, these are temporary fixes, but we think we can remedy some of this temporarily with scheduling. And I couldn't imagine anybody not wanting to use that brand new, beautiful building and having access to all the things that we're saying we don't have access to in another building. So, thank you, Coach, for working on that. And, but we'll continue working on it, and we'll get to it. But it's going to ultimately be something the board has to take an action on.
Board, do you have any further questions on the topic?
Can we add this to discussion during our budget workshop possibly? Or we might need to budget some money for something along those lines.
Yeah.
Will you make a note of that, Rhonda?
In our future budget workshop, or tonight when we talk about budget?
Future,
Future.
sorry.
Yeah.
Future.
Rhonda, can you fix that tonight, please? I have ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. Go item C, District Leadership Task Force Update, Holdsworth Center Professional Collaboration.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to come visit with you this evening about an update for the Holdsworth Collaborative. We are very fortunate to be a part of the Holdsworth Collaborative leadership. And we were selected, and I just wanted to remind you all, we were selected as one of very few districts in Texas, and it's a very prestigious honor that we are a part of this Holdsworth Center. And we have learned from so many organizations, including the San Antonio Spurs, about leadership, HEB, and many school districts around Texas, as well as throughout the nation, that have come to speak to us about developing leaders and some of the things they have going on in their district in high-performing school systems, and as well as some of those organizations that we discussed. Dr. Jackson, Ms. Whitfield, and I have the honor of bringing some of these things back to our leadership at our cabinet, as well as our leadership task force from the Holdsworth Center. And each time we attend, we just gain even more insight from individuals as they're growing leaders, as we're looking to do in LaPorte. And of course, they are excited about the ideas that we have going on here and that we're able to share with them. So tonight, we'd just like to provide you with an update about our Leadership Definition Task Force, a dedicated group of individuals here in our district that have come together since November. And we have discussed the portrait of current and future leadership here in LaPorte. So with that, I want to just show you a quote from Charles Butt, who many of you know is the chairman and CEO of HEB, and he's also the founder of the Holdsworth Center. And he says this: there is no shortcut and no silver bullet. We want to get to the root of making long-term, sustainable improvement to public education. We've got to invest time to go deep within our districts, and that is certainly what we believe in when we come together each time, is just really going deeper into what do we believe about leadership, what do we value, and what do we want our future to look like here in LaPorte. So with that, just one other thing about the Holdsworth Center. We share this mission, is to impact over time the quality of our K-12 public education for our students, certainly, and we do that by supporting and developing our leaders here in the district. And when we talk about leaders, we're not just talking about people who may be sitting here on cabinet or in this room. It's everyone in our district. There are leaders who drive buses. There are leaders who help our students in the classroom. There are leaders everywhere in our district, and so we are very excited to bring that to everyone. We wanted to just remind you of our collaborative that we are so fortunate to be a part of. These are the districts, and you can see where they're located across Texas, and we are one of them. And it is amazing to see the things that are going on in these districts, but they also, again, are so excited about what's going on here in LaPorte. With that, Ms. Whitfield.
Well, as Ms. Viator stated, we are so excited to be a part of the Holdsworth Leadership Collaborative. And this is a 2-year commitment. We started in September of 2021, and so we're still pushing forward. But one of the things we'd like to recognize, and I want to thank my fellow steering members, Dr. Jackson, of course, and then Ms. Viator for working together and helping to just kind of move us forward. There are 2 outcomes that we seek when we work with the Holdsworth Leadership Collaborative. One is to develop a leadership definition with a visual. We want something that everyone can take away in our community, our students, our teachers, our custodians, our cafeteria workers, our cabinet. Everyone can take away and understand what leadership is and what it looks like in LaPorte ISD. And the second piece to our collaborative is to create a system to support the development and growth of our principal pipeline. And so as you can see here, we are right in the midst of April, and so we have analyzed our pipeline metrics, work that we've done prior to tonight, defined our leadership with the support and help of our task force, and we're so excited to share in a few minutes with you those individuals who've helped us, and we found some hidden talents in LaPorte ISD, so we're excited about that now. We move forward to build the knowledge of our talent systems. And so as we move into our work for this summer, moving forward to the fall, we're moving into the second phase of our leadership process with Holsworth. Our roadmap to that leadership definition, which is our first outcome for Holsworth. We had several task force meetings that we had throughout the course of the fall and the spring. And so I know you can see here that we are excited that we could check the box, that we were able to come back and bring all of that together. And you'll see the yellow section there highlights our leadership definition celebration. We were so thrilled that the three of us could take back to Holsworth in April our graphic that LaPorte ISD's task force came up with, and we were received with well wishes, and everybody had so much excitement behind LaPorte ISD. So I can really tell you it felt great to know that our efforts were not in vain, and we really worked hard. So as we talk about this, one of the things that we have to do with our leadership definition is to identify characteristics or traits that we want all of our leaders to possess. And Ms. Viator mentioned students, teachers, paraprofessionals, clerical staff, custodians. When you think of what does it look like to be a leader in LaPorte, we want to remind everybody it's not the title, it's what you possess and the characteristic traits that you have to show leadership. You guys are leaders as well of the LaPorte ISD community, and so we want everyone to feel this great need. As we move forward, Holsworth has some action-based steps that we had to take. And one of the things we noticed that by the end of this collaboration, we will be able to identify ready leaders. And those ready leaders could be teachers, moving into teacher leader roles, moving into assistant principals, moving into principals. It could be students as they move forward and they're looking at leadership on teams, leaderships within their organizations. Some of them can even create or start organizations. So as we talk about these leadership outcomes, that's what we'd like to see. We know we want to utilize our best practices that we have in talent management. We're working to form powerful learning committees, and you've heard about PLCs, but we want these learning committees to be on leadership. We want students to know when I leave LaPorte ISD, I know what it takes to be a leader as I move forward to that next phase. And then we want to blend all of the theory. Ms. Viator mentioned we've researched different organizations, other school districts, but how do you blend those theories and all of that knowledge into common practice in our district? And that's the goal of our task force and our steering committee. And finally, when we finish our collaborative work, we will have a pipeline of ready leaders to step into the next principalship role, and that's the goal. And when we talk about this pipeline, if you look here, here's just a kind of quick visual of what it means to have a leadership principal pipeline. And so this is what we are trying to boost alongside of with the work from the Holsworth. So as we think of our teachers, we see things in teachers, talents in teachers. Teachers rise to the occasion and they become leaders on their campuses. And as they become leaders, they start to think, what areas could I possibly grow in? I have a master's in communications. I have a master's in curriculum. I have a master's in certain areas. And then can I take that to the next level and start to lead maybe my school organization and become an assistant principal? And from that assistant principal chair, am I ready to take on the principalship? And that's the role of our collaborative, and that's the work that Dr. Jackson, Ms. Viator, and I are doing at Holsworth. Ms. Viator?
Okay, just so you all see, our members of our task force team, there were 27 people, and they diligently came, and as a matter of fact, some of them were excited that we were presenting tonight the visual to you all. So there are people that are newer to the profession, people newer to our district. There are people who have been leaders in our district, teachers of the year, all types of roles. We really wanted to have a variety of perspectives on our committee just to be sure that we were looking and having conversations around what is valued on the campus, in the district, and at different levels and different experiences. So just wanted to show you that. And here's a picture of our task force. We were very excited after our first meeting. We took a picture after all that great work. You see some of it back on that wall, so right here in this room. All these neat conversations. And one of the things we really talk about, and we talked about from the beginning, is what is a leadership definition and why is it so important? And so we want to think about why is it important to define leadership in the district, and Ms. Whitfield talked about that so that we can have common conversations around what do we value and what do we need in leaders. Also is, if you're wanting to pursue leadership in LaPorte ISD, what would be expected of you and how can you grow to become that? So that's the most important thing. And these are some examples that we discussed and we have studied, and our team, our task force, looked at. One of them is HEB, and this may look very familiar to you. A lot of them wear it on their badges. For an HEB employee, you might see it in the store, and it's the HEB way. And so there's some different things, and they wanted to be sure we knew that this is years and years in the making, and just recently they did do some tweaks to it. So they are constantly evolving, and just as we are in LaPorte ISD and thinking about how our values are. Some of them may stay the same, but we may change some things as to how it's worded. The other graphic that you see here is the YMCA, an organization that's been around for a very long time, and they've done a lot of work around their leadership definition. So what a leadership definition is, those three questions that we considered as a task force, and it's what does the organization expect of me? No matter what role I'm in, no matter who I'm serving and where I am, is what does it expect of me? What skills and traits are maybe required or suggested to move up, perhaps if you're looking to gain another leadership role? And finally, what do we value in leaders? So those are things that will be included in a leadership definition. And again, this is just quickly, it defines how HEB looks at their circles, and they did come and speak to us about this. One of their talent developers, he actually is involved in developing all employees in the HEB system and writes that curriculum. So you can see that the outer ring out there are specific leadership competencies, things that they want to see that go along with the categories, which is the inner circle here. And finally, in number 2, there's some categories that are core values that HEB has. So those are what is involved in their circles there. And so looking at just that example and moving on, Ms. Whitfield's going to talk about the process that we went through.
So Ms. Viator shared that we have 27 members on our task force. So what exactly was the collaborative process? And so if you look here, step 1, we identified our leader competencies. In other words, what is it that the task force felt like would be characteristics or traits that a leader should have or possess in order to be a leader in LaPorte ISD? Everyone had an opinion, and they were recognized, and you'll see here shortly through some photos where we certainly worked hard. The second step was to then take those competencies and group them into categories. And so our teams manipulated posters and they did certain things, and we came up with these categories that we felt like would really hone in on leadership in LaPorte ISD. From there, we went to step 3, where we started to refine some of those competencies within each category. So in other words, these things can kind of overlap. So when we think about this in terms of speaking, if it's communication, for example, we want someone that's a good listener, or we want someone that's empathetic, etc. So as we kind of refine those things, Ms. Viator here will share shortly what we did with that process. And then step 4, we developed descriptors for each of the competencies. So it provided the clarity and the depth. So not only when we say you are a person who is a motivator, then describe what that looks like. How do you motivate? And so that was our descriptive role. And finally, we created a leadership definition visual that we're proud of, and we hope to see this plastered throughout LaPorte ISD in our community. So what leadership competencies do we want our leaders to embody and practice in our district? So as you can see here, like I shared with you, our steps on our process, step 1 and step 2, everybody had an opportunity to just take 5 minutes of silent time to just write down what you felt like on each Post-it note. What were those characteristics? Then step 2 was to then take those characteristics and group those into competencies and start to build categories. So for example, these are really ours from our school district, and you can see where some of them kind of started drawing lines and grouped some things there. So they really enjoyed getting into this work and then bringing the different perspectives from secondary, elementary. We had nutrition represented, transportation represented. So we had a very wide mix of staff members. And you can see here is Ms. Abrams' group actually there. They were working on theirs, and then they came up with these competencies as they worked together. Ms. Jackson's group. It was my group, but I was the photo girl. And then Ms. Viator was the second photo girl, so she's walking around taking pictures as well. But we did support our group's members.
And as you can see, and probably just through our work, there were some common themes that within the group and then in all of the groups. So it was amazing. You would hear different, like, wait a minute, they're almost saying the same things we are. So, and Holdsworth even says, we could have just, Dr. Jackson and Ms. Whitfield and I and Cabinet could have just come up with this whole thing ourselves, but that's really not the heart of this work. The heart of this work is the collaboration and hearing everyone's ideas and really seeing how, in some cases it's similar, in some cases it might be a little different, and bringing another idea and thinking, I didn't think of it that way before. So that, and you can see what our draft was for step 3 and coming up with this, these categories, and still, I will tell you right now, this isn't where we ended, and you'll see, but we felt really good about these. We presented it at Holdsworth, and they kind of went, maybe these should look like maybe the same. You've got 2 words here and 1 word here. Have y'all thought about that? And we're like, well, okay, let's go back. So there was quite a bit of work going on throughout the fall and the spring semester. But again, these are great values and things that we certainly thought were things that a leader should possess. And then you can see this step 4 where the groups took it even deeper. They were each assigned a different competency, and they brainstormed, what does that look like deeper? When you talk about serving, what does that look like? If someone were to say service to others, then what would that look like? How could I develop that competency? And so on. So this is just one example of those different competencies that we looked at as groups. And then
So now it was time to go to work and find those hidden talents among our task force. So as we reviewed our task force, we reviewed, like Ms. Viator shared, HEB, the YMCA, Netflix, GE, other public school systems across our country, and just kind of looked at their visuals and thought, hey, what does it look like in LaPorte? So sharing with you, we found out about all these talented people we have working for us. So one of our, while sitting in the room, one of our designers created this here, so you can see where we started. So as you can see, they started with our categories. So we were looking at results, relationships, growth, innovation. And so here's the work of one of our task force members in 15 minutes, quickly. I couldn't draw that, but anyway. Then another person thought about how we are all intertwined, and we had some people. So you can see where the different perspectives are coming through, still utilizing relationships. Now, I'm going to tell you about this one. These are hearts, but they're heads. I had to look too. So can you see the hearts and the heads connecting now? I know. I had to tell you. Right. I know. So they're there. But we had to share. And then here's another one, just sat down and started drawing and started trying to figure out how we can figure out to get this leadership visual. There was another person that just sketched out some things there. Then we worked with our communications department, and we kind of took some different things. So we also said, hey, let's take a stab at it, because neither one of I can't draw. Miss Viator might be a great artist. So we worked with them and came up with these different kind of examples, if you will, color schemes and some differences. So I'm going to let her take over.
And then finally, just thinking about those things and honoring what our task force had come up with, and it was a great meeting in April, and our communications department, hats off to them. They took that, and here we go. This was our final draft, and I'm still going to call it a draft because you know we might be making some changes, but those are this is our visual for leadership here in LaPorte ISD, including those words that you saw on all those stickies and what we kind of drilled down to. And we really wanted something in the middle with the LP. That was important to us. So we did want to make sure you had a copy of that. And again, it's still in draft because we may make some minor changes, and we would like to just talk about just our phase 2, which is our next steps in our leadership collaborative, because as Ms. Whitfield said, this was our first year. We're going into our second year. And our next steps, we're going to unveil, which we're doing some tonight, and then we're going to do that with our task force again, just looking at that and celebrating our group's hard work, just outlining their role for the future in the task force. We would like to meet with them still next year and just get some things going for leadership here and setting the groundwork for our implementation of phase 2. So we're just really looking forward to that. And
finally, we just want to leave you with our belief statement. As we thought about the work that we're doing and how we move forward, we believe that ensuring our leadership development and pipeline is strong and ready to take on the challenges of leading schools is a critical component to producing excellent and equitable student outcomes.
Finally, we also believe that clearly defined leadership and role-specific leadership competencies is key to identifying, developing, placing, and supporting our current and future leaders here in LaPorte ISD. Just really thank you for your time.
Great time.
Can I just say, we have some people here that have done an amazing job. If you're on the leadership task force, will you stand?
Thank you both.
I got a request. Can you make, I just don't request. Can you make these into stickers?
I can do anything.
We are just so excited you said that, because we have a lot of ideas, even like for them to go on like the computers, and perhaps some shirts and mouse pad, yeah, different things,
shirts.
logos.
I was thinking like a coaster today when I was looking at it. It almost looks like a coaster.
Yeah,
So
but
anyway, it was,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me get back to it. Here we go. Item D, budget update.
Good evening. You have a handout at your seat. This will be quick. Last month, we talked about the hold harmless and the ADA and what that's going to do for us, and we have actual numbers in here. So for the 6 weeks, I used a very conservative number. We have no idea what that's going to be, but all of our other 6 weeks have been completed, and we know what our ADA is. So taking into account, they used the first 6 weeks of the year COVID hit. So that would be 19-20 year, 19, the first 6 weeks of that, into 20. And our average daily attendance during that time, our target percentage attendance rate was 94%. And for the first 6 weeks this year, we were at 90%. So that did help us. Our budgeted ADA was 6305, with our hold harmless ADA at 6307. So yay for that. We would have been at 6145. So that was very helpful. Right under that is our estimated taxable values, and I gave you 5 years to look at just so you could see that they are growing. This year, our estimated value for debt service is $13,757,674,489. And the Chapter 313 estimated adjustment, HCAT hasn't released that yet, so our tax collector just gave me the numbers as best she could pull it, so that will be tweaked a little bit. But our M&O taxable amount preliminary is $12,694,664,929. So that's almost $1 billion growth from last year. So for us, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because we're funded based on our ADA. Back in the day when we were taxed on last year's value, that was great because we were, last year's value counted for our ADA. So if we had growth, the difference between the growth was money we got to keep. Now that we're on current year values, there's no excess money we get to keep. So now more is going to recapture and is going back to the state. So there's no money in there for wiggle room or anything like that, that if you were either a ADA growing district, like your enrollment was growing, or your base was growing, you would have some extra funds each year. Going to current values stopped that for tax, for the base that we would get. We're estimating that our budget's going to end about $900,000 better than we budgeted. So that's a preliminary number. You still got a couple months to go. The next page is our TRS active care rates. Now, if you remember last year, you all voted to go from $370 to $400 district contribution, so that's great. And in all areas, the rates went down this year. So that's great as well. And the next page just shows how many people are participating. And really the only thing that changed a lot, we have the same number of participants, but a lot went from the new primary, from the high deductible to the new primary. And the last one is, I think you already received this information from Dr. Jackson, and it's based on what a raise would cost this year. Just so if you want to have any discussion on it or have any questions about that, we can talk about that. Otherwise, that's really all I have. Any questions?
And TRS active care is not, the rate for our employees is not increasing this year, correct?
Correct. Well, yes, it increased to 400 last year. So if you look, our employees are actually going to be paying less next year than they're paying now.
What it's costing the employees.
No, it's going down.
Hallelujah for that.
Hallelujah. It's the first time in a long
Would that be
time.
because there are some districts thinking about possibly looking at a different plan?
So I think that's created some of it. What they did is they did regional rates. So not everybody's rates went down, but we're in the Region 4 regional rates, and so our rates did go down. I think before they were just using the state as a whole, and so everybody had to pick up, if you had a region that was, like had a lot more claims or things like that, everybody had to pick up those costs. So since other schools are looking at doing different things and they're getting out of TRS or they're not happy with TRS, they had to start looking at different ways to stop increasing the costs. So I think this is one way to do it. But for us, it was a good thing. And we did look, we had to make a decision by December of if we were going to go to a different insurance company versus TRS. And we did look at that. We looked at if it would be better for us or not. We had other insurance companies get involved and look at our claim history and everything. And they said that we were better off staying with TRS. But if you have a bigger district, that might not be the case. And those are a lot bigger numbers they're dealing with as well.
Ms. Covey, I see you have the HCAT values. Strange enough, I got some call from a concerned citizen. He's a former board member, but he had some questions, and I told him I'd ask this. But what is our role in terms of approving these, if you will? And his specific question was: does our board have the ability? Not that we ever would, but do we have the ability to vote no? Do we say no? We don't accept these rates.
So in August, I think, we generally bring the tax rolls for your approval. So I guess at that time you could say no. Now, what would happen after that? I would have to do some research on that. But, right, probably has never been done, right? Each individual has the opportunity to protest to get those rates down. But would you vote no because you think the rates are too high? Would you vote?
I'm not saying I'm gonna vote no.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering what the argument would be with it.
When it got posed to me, I was like, I was getting yelled at.
I don't know a district that's ever, it could have been.
I was getting yelled at.
I've never heard of it being done. I think it's just kind of a.
No, but seriously, like, he's like, you approved the rate, you raised my tax. And I said, do we even have ability? My question is, do we even have the ability not to approve the rate? Just hypothetically.
I think I'm going to find out for you if we say no, what's going to happen, because I can't tell you.
That's the tax assessors.
Right, exactly.
But they think the board does it all, right?
And that's the process they go through. They don't come to us to protest.
What does it mean though, like when we, I guess I'm still new on that. Like, what is it, when we approve it in August?
When we approve it, it's basically saying that's what our tax, we're gonna receive
Right.
revenue based.
And we're going to tax based on that and that kind of thing. We're going to.
We don't set that tax.
Right. So I don't really think we can do anything, but.
I think that the general complaint from the public is that their taxes are going up, even though our rate is staying the same. It's going up because their appraised value is going up. So they have to take that battle with the county and go and protest their own taxes to get some relief there.
But the market's been
We can do that.
crazy too with real estate. I mean, the houses have been selling for a lot more, and I think the appraisal districts have jumped on board and said, "Wait a minute, we're losing here." So I don't know.
We'll ask that question though, to see what.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just trying to pass the buck and be clear.
Consider it passed. Any other questions or discussion?
Do you have any further questions for us? No? Thank you so much.
Next time, I want to go first. I was kidding.
Why, because you want more questions or what?
No, because then you'll be repeated. I'm not saying you're asleep. You know, those were great presentations, and then the budget. It's boring. It's not anything that.
It's very important, Rhonda.
Thank you.
It is important.
Dr. Jackson?
So lastly, under the superintendent's report, Mr. President and Board of Trustees, I'd like to invite Julie Abrams up to give a brief report on STEM academies for our elementary schools. Ms. Abrams?
See, Rhonda, you didn't have to go last. I'm delighted to speak with you tonight. I have hopefully some great news to share with you about great things happening in the Porte ISD, if I can figure out how to do this. And I will try to be enthusiastic and energetic and exciting and brief. So when I first arrived in LaPorte ISD, it was clear to me from Dr. Jackson that there was a charge to do some great things with early learning and specifically with STEM. So he set the tone for us very early on in our department for creating STEM academies in LaPorte ISD. The vision was to create an opportunity for STEM learning for all students in grades pre-K through 5 at every campus beginning in the 22-23 school year. It's a pretty lofty charge, but one that we were excited to try to meet. The other charges were that this program needed to be inclusive so that all students had the opportunity. We wanted to try to design a program that was sustainable, something that wasn't going to be a flash in the pan, and a program, of course, that LaPorte could be very, very proud of. So we very quickly got to work. We knew, though, that STEM needed to happen, not just because Dr. Jackson has this vision and has this idea, but because it's needed in our community. If you look at some of the research out there about Gulf Coast job force and how the jobs are changing in this area, the growth is exponential in STEM-related fields. Projected by the year 2026, 40% of the need will be in healthcare, 30% of the need will be in food service, and over almost 30% will be in computer design or software-related fields. All of these STEM fields, all of these indicative of the kind of preparation that we must do for our kids starting very, very early. So we knew that we needed to do this for our local economy, for our community. We know that we need to do this for kids. We wanted to prepare them very early for what's to come and for those STEM pathways in the high school. We want them ready when they graduate to enter that global workforce, and we want them to develop those skills early so that they can meet any academic challenge. So here's what we did. In early September, we established a design team made up of district leaders, teachers, and district and principals to start the early conversations. We did some learning with Region 4, with TEA, about what is STEM learning, what are STEM experiences, what is the TEA framework for STEM learning, what are the STEM essentials from Region 13. We've just really explored what is STEM to unify our expectations and our understandings as a design team. And then we went to go visit sites. We went to CCISD and visited the STEM Academy at Ed White Elementary. We visited with Louisville ISD, who has a nationally certified STEM program at multiple campuses. We visited Dickinson ISD in their 5th and 6th grade campuses, and we visited Alief ISD in their Alexander Elementary. All of these campuses have great programs. All of them do STEM a little differently, and so we got to see some great things in action, and we got to take notes. We decided very early on that there were great things happening in lots of places, but we were going to bulldog it and figure out how that was going to look here. So we came back from all of our site visits and all of our learning, and we articulated our vision for STEM in LaPorte ISD. We believe STEM education opens doors for each student through interdisciplinary learning rooted in critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. With developing both innovative and practical skills through varied problem-solving applications, we will prepare each student to be resilient and ready for any challenge they will face in a future global society. So that's the vision. And so what we did after that is we set some goals. I'd like to note that these goals are rooted in 5 domains that align with the TEA framework for STEM learning. So domain 1 is equity of programming. As I've mentioned again and again, we wanted this to be equitable. We wanted all students in the district to have the opportunity to experience STEM. So our first goal, and remember these are 5-year goals, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what this is going to look like in year 1, and then of course we have more planning that we're going to do. So goal 1, in 5 years, provide meaningful opportunities in STEM for each student in LaPorte ISD in grades pre-K through 5 to develop 21st century skills in critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Goal 2, domain 2, which is school culture and climate. We want to create a collaborative culture of learning at each campus that embraces the engineering design process, celebrates mistakes, and redesign and encourages grit and determination in solving challenging problems applicable to the real world. The key there is that celebrating mistakes. If you think about the engineering design process, it's not about a finished product, it's about redesigning and refining and continuous learning process. Goal 3, program design. We want to provide a hands-on STEM learning experience that integrate problem solving and design challenges that are aligned to grade level TEKS and contents across STEM fields. With curriculum and instruction, we want to ensure our STEM experiences are vertically aligned to the TEKS in pre-K through 5 and to the STEM pathways in high school for college and career readiness, and as I mentioned, for our community readiness and for the workforce that awaits them. And lastly, stakeholder engagement. We want to partner with all stakeholders to expand learning experiences beyond the classroom. We want to tap into our community, and we want to connect learning to future careers, responding to community needs. So those are our 5-year goals. So what is this going to look like in year 1? This is the exciting part. So we are going to have STEM on every campus in the fall, elementary, in grades 3 and 4 through a STEM lab experience. We are going to unify those experiences, and it's going to be a district-wide program. We're going to unify that with a district STEM facilitator, somebody whose job it's going to be to provide those experiences for every 3rd grader and every 4th grader across the district on a rotation schedule. Through the help and the work with the STEM facilitator, we're going to provide professional learning opportunities for teachers and campuses ongoing throughout the year for them and during the summer months on just what is STEM learning, how does that look in the classroom, what is an engineering design challenge, how do I put that together, how do I connect that to the TEKS. And we're going to build STEM experiences focused on the engineering design process of think, design, build, test, redesign. Which is the model of continuous learning that is the foundation for any STEM pathway a child will choose as they move through junior high and high school. In addition, every campus will have a STEM lab space designated for these STEM experiences and rotations. The labs will be equipped uniformly for equity and consistency. The district STEM facilitator will provide leadership for implementation with students and campuses, I mentioned, with professional learning and by providing those experiences for kids. And the design team that has started this process will continue to meet to do two things that are going to be crucial to the success of this program and the sustainability. Number one, evaluate as we go through year one and tweak and refine. How are we doing? What needs to adapt? What needs to change? And then to continue those planning efforts for year 2, 3, 4, and 5 and beyond, so that we can ensure sustainability. So what are we doing right now to prepare for our launch? We're working to hire a STEM facilitator. That position is posted currently. We're working to equip STEM lab spaces at every campuses equitably. We have applied for some grants that we're very hopeful that we will perhaps receive. Keep that on your prayer list. And then we're going to work this summer with the STEM facilitator and our instructional team to develop those STEM experiences in grade 3 and 4. And we're going to create makerspace opportunities for some early grades so they can go into these STEM labs and they can tinker and start to experience. And we're going to really work to create a strategic communication plan to communicate this to our community and to our stakeholders. We know that it's not every campus in year one. We wanted to start small with 2 grades. We felt like 3 and 4 were the pivotal grades because in 5th grade, that is part of the new TEKS with science, and so they will have that anyway in terms of the engineering design process. But we wanted it sustainable, so we wanted to start small enough that we could manage it, that it could be a district program so that we could ensure that there was equity and allow the opportunity for teachers to come in and watch it happen with a STEM facilitator so that that's part of the embedded learning process during the first year. So that's the exciting news that I have to share. I'm looking forward to coming up here next year and showing off all the great things that we're doing with the STEM program. So, any questions?
Okay, so how will they work the rotation into their current schedules? So I know that 3rd and 4th our elementary students have specials. So will it be considered as specials? How will it rotate in?
So the early plans from the design team are that we'll have a rotation schedule that will carve out a week's worth of time. And so we will work with those teams, the 3rd grade and the 4th grade team, so that it's your designated week to adjust the instructional time during that week to allow for this special opportunity in the STEM lab. So it won't take away from the current rotations of specials. It will be adjusted and added into the regular instructional time. We will work very hard and closely with those campuses to do that far in advance so that they're ready to they're prepared for that to come.
Are we going to encourage we're going to encourage our STEM facilitator to write grants for the
Yes, ma'am.
education?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I think that'd be some great
Yes, ma'am.
opportunity right there.
Right.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
don't have a STEM facilitator yet, and they've already begun writing grants, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, we've written for a very large grant that we're very hopeful we're hoping. And then we'll continue to write for those grants as we find them.
And there's some business leaders out there that want to partner with our school district, and so we're going to tap into those folks as well.
One of the things that I'm really proud of with this design team is in the conversation and in the learning, you think about STEM as technology driven, and we learned early on that really it's about the thinking and how do we teach the thinking that goes on behind the technology, because here's the deal, we could funnel 50 grand into technology to make this look like a really great program year 1 and year 2, and then year 3, guess what? All the technology is out of date, it breaks, it's broken, I'm coming back to you asking for another 50 grand to do more technology, and that's not going to be a sustainable program. So our design team was really intentional about how can we have the greatest amount of impact, expose students to the technology, but allow this to be a low-tech kind of operation that can be really focused on the thinking so that when they get to junior high, they're ready to tackle whatever technology awaits them in some of those early CTE courses and beyond. So.
I'd like to say I thank you guys for bringing this to the district. I'm kind of long overdue, but I'm so happy that we finally have it. We are unique in that we have 42 plants in this area, and every single one of them will tell you they will pour back into our district if you can tie it to a STEM initiative, right? And so it shouldn't be very hard to raise a lot of money for this. I like to also, too, that you guys have done some benchmarking, specifically with Ed White. Their model is that they really incorporate the community into to that school a lot of different ways. And so my question is, like, will we have that ability to, as we grow and adapt our program, to be able to have the community, not just in terms of dollar wise, but they have people coming in teaching yoga, karate, all these different things. They do some amazing things at Ed White. Will we have the ability to do some of those similar things?
Those are part of the action items that we have for the community stakeholder goal, goal 5, I believe it is. We really need to connect this early learning, not only giving kids experiences in STEM, but allowing them to hear from the community. What are the careers that are out there? What do people do when they get a degree in biology? You know, what do people do when they work in a plant? You know, my dad works in a plant, but what does that mean? And so really helping kids understand what STEM looks like and all the different hats that STEM learning has. It's crucial that our community be very integral to that. And as we work to refine the programs and offerings that we have at the high school, aligning that to the workforce needs that we have, we'll continue to do more of that with the community.
I'm excited.
I'm really excited. I'm tired. I'm not going to tell you. But I'm excited. Yes, if you are a part of the design team, would you please stand and be recognized? We worked very hard.
We're tired too, right?
We're all tired. So thank you. I appreciate your support, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to coming back and telling you more about it.
Okay, board, we will go to item 9, consent agenda. A, determine and approve any consent agenda items. B, approve board meeting minutes. Number 1, called board meeting minutes, March 11th, 2022. If I could have that pulled, please. So, you're not ready? B1, 9B1, yeah, cool. 2, regular board meeting minutes, April 5th, 2022. C, receive principals' reports. 1, Early Childhood Center. 2, Bayshore Elementary. 3, College Park Elementary. 4, Heritage Elementary. 5, Jenny Reed Elementary. 6, LaPorte Elementary. 7, Leroy Rizzuto Elementary. 8, Lomax Elementary. 9, James H. Baker 6th grade campus. 10, LaPorte Junior High. 11, Lomax Junior High. 12, LaPorte High School. 13, Bill DeWalt High School. D, receive financial reports for March 2022. E, receive human resources report. F, approve employment of professional staff. G, approve instructional materials allotment, IMA, expenditures and purchases for Proclamation 2022, College Board pre-AP curriculum and general renewals. H, approve purchase of a storage area network, SAN. I, approve updates to 2021-2022 LaPorte ISD compensation plan. If you could pull that, please.
Mr. President, we pull G and H, please.
Okay, and G and H. Ms. Thompson, can you read back the consent agenda?
Consent agenda items include item B, 2, C, 1 through 13, D, E, and F.
Okay, board, seek a motion on the consent agenda. Mr. Shoppy has made a motion. Need a second? Ms. Crutcher has seconded. Call for the vote. Is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Yes, B1. Okay, B1, approved board meeting minutes, called board meeting minutes, March 11, 2022. The reason why I pulled this, there was a correction to be made on the meeting minutes for the closed meeting, and just as far as removal of a trustee that was not there at the closed meeting. So if it, yeah, and Ms. Oliveris has that correction, so it was wasn't updated in the thing because it was kind of late in the day when I spoke to her about it. So I just asked if, as far as approving the meeting minutes, that we accept with the correction. So I seek a motion.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Thompson made a motion, seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item G. Approve instructional materials allotment, IMA expenditures and purchases for Proclamation 2022, College Board, Pre-AP curriculum, and general renewals. Jeff?
So my question is, for G and H, I guess this is for Mrs. Cumbie, not opposed to this in any way, shape, or form, but, this extra between the two, $578,000. I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about this, for STEM and also for technology to come out of a bond. So is this $578,000? Where are we getting this money?
Comes from the instructional materials allotment. It's out of the special revenue fund that's provided by TEA.
Correct.
And limited pots money as well. But it doesn't come out of either the general fund or bond.
Okay, so we wouldn't, I mean, would we still need, I guess what I mean, would we still need to put this into a potential bond?
This is never included in the potential bond. This is something that we do annually.
Correct.
With your
Well, I see the STEM, there's at least 70,000
You're probably looking at STEM scopes.
Mhm.
STEM scopes is actually our curriculum
Oh,
for
okay.
K to 8.
Okay, thank you for
Yes,
clarification. Okay.
yes.
Perfect.
Yeah?
That was a good question.
You good?
The first one I've had. That sounds good, yeah.
Okay, okay. Board, do you have any further questions on this item? Okay, we'll seek a motion. Mr. Shoppy has made a motion. Seconded by Ms. Thompson. Call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you, Board. We'll go to item H, approve purchase of a storage area network SAN. Jeff?
The same questions, yeah, I don't have any further.
Okay. Good. Okay, any further questions by the board? Nope. Okay, seek a motion? Okay, Mr. Shopping made a motion, seconded by Ms. Crutcher. Call for the vote. Okay, thank you. It's unanimous. Here we go to item I, approve updates to 2021 to 2022 LaPorte ISD compensation plan. And this is for Dr. Jackson. Under the action sheet, it said $32 to $38, but under the backup, it's $32 to $40. So you want to clarify that for the board, please?
We're recommending a 32 to 38, a $6 increase for our summer school. Okay, and so it was a mistake. We didn't catch it in time. So
Okay.
apologies for that.
What? 38.
Instead of the 40, which is very competitive with our neighboring districts. Certainly very competitive with our neighboring districts.
Yes.
And we believe it'll be highly appreciative, and we're beginning to kind of already hear some of that based on what you decide to do tonight.
But the rest of the numbers in there are correct?
Yes.
38 to 44, 25 to 30.
Ms. Viator, we reviewed that, am I correct?
Okay. Good evening. No, sir. Well, the changes here are the current ones, and that you're looking at right here with this chart, and it's $6 increase for every one of the rates that are listed here for summer school and ESY. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, where I went to school, 25 plus 6 is 13.
25 plus 6, yeah, right there in the second one.
Yeah.
So it's $31.
Did I say 32?
Well, that's for a different rate. Yeah, so he was quoting the teacher rate specifically, and the nurse rates.
Right.
Any of them that were 32 before went to 38, but all of the columns represent from the current rates, just $6 increases. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I'm sorry, like, for example, the second one is summer school credit recovery. That's a little different of a job that a teacher's doing. They're not doing direct teach and lesson planning. They're monitoring what students are doing on the Edgenuity program. Yes, ma'am. So all of them are $6 increases from the left column to the right column. I'm sorry for the, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, board, seek a motion. Ms. Thompson made a motion. Seconded by Mr. Hanks. Okay, we'll call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you so much. We'll go to item action and discussion items. Item 10B, authorize the superintendent to approve the hiring of contract professionals of director level or below on the district's pay scale from May 4, 2022 to August 17, 2022.
And board, this is traditionally what happens just because we're going to be fast and furious with some of this. And so instead of having to wait for a board meeting, you give the superintendent the authority to share those things with you in my updates as well.
Yeah.
General
That's been
practice.
always.
I'll make the motion to authorize the superintendent to approve the hiring of contract professionals at director level or below on the district pay scale from May 4th to August 17th, 2020.
Okay, Mr. Martin has made a motion, and seek a second. Ms. Thompson's made a second. Call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. Item C, approve term, probationary, and non-certified contract recommendations for certified teachers, admin professionals, and pay grades 1 through 5. Do we have any?
Ms.
Listen.
Viator, do we have anything you'd like to share with the board? I do not have anything to share.
No, sir,
not this
time, just the fact that.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Other teachers that I guess come from other districts, is it, I know I guess we're typically all on 1 year, as I read this, 1 year contracts. Do other districts, is that standard protocol for other districts?
Ms. Viator can answer that.
That's a good question.
I mean, it's hard to get teachers.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the case or not, but I've heard from other districts, they have 2 and 3 year for their teachers. I don't have any idea if that's true.
Talk about what we've done traditionally.
Yeah.
That may help us.
Yes, sir. So traditionally, when teachers start with us, particularly ones that don't have any experience in the profession, they come in at a probationary contract, and that can be as the code 3 years of probationary contract, just to make sure that they have that opportunity to grow and learn. And some of them, it may, we want to help them to do that in their process. So that's that. We do have, and I know Dr. Wiley has presented our District of Innovation plan, and part of that is even teachers who might have some experience. We are able to continue that probationary after the first year into the second and third year as well. So that does occur at times. Maybe they might change grade levels. They might just be new to the state, and it's a transition for them. So that's another piece. Now, as far as our current teachers or even administrators, there are some options for term contracts once we get through a probationary period, or it might be that a teacher might go to a term quicker because they have other excellent experience that have had, and the recommendation of the principal might be for them to move to a term contract prior to the 3 years of probation. There are some teachers who have in the past and have been with us a long time and have had that tenure with us. I guess I'll use that word. And they've been on some 2-term contracts. And there's also a few teachers which you had already approved and or reviewed in, I guess it was April, that were on continuing contracts. We no longer offer at this time. Most districts don't have continuing contracts, new ones. It would just be people who are continuing on that continuing contract and continue employment with us. We certainly honor those contracts. So that's another form of a contract that's offered under Chapter 21 of the Texas Education Code that we do honor. And then there are some multi-year term contracts. You saw some in April that come in, and those are people who have been in our district and sustained that employment and have done a great job per their evaluations and the principal's recommendations. So they were on multi-year
Are
contracts.
those all administrative type positions?
No, sir. No. Some of them are teachers, some counselors, some nurses. And so those are people. You want to speak on that, Dr. Jackson?
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I was just gonna ask you to just expound upon, this is not new, that what you're doing in this district, correct?
Yes, sir. No, it's not new. As far as multi-year, staying multi-year, if you already had a multi-year contract prior to, I will tell you, just to speak on what you asked, that other districts, there are a lot of districts that are going to, and some move to all 1-year contracts. We did not do that.
That's Pasadena. Pasadena went to all 1.
Yes.
I guess, so I'm
A lot.
obviously going to house names, but there's somebody on this list that is coming from another district, and they have at least 3 or 4 years of experience in the Fort, but they're showing a 1-year contract. I guess what I'm confused is why does one teacher qualify for 1 year, even though they may have 15, 20 years experience, and you got other teachers? I guess, to me, it would come from a staffing background. Does that not create a problem in HR? When you got
As far as, what the principal recommends, and it might be due to evaluations, it might be due to just they've moved grade levels, different things. It could be that they've been on a 1-year contract, and that was what we determined we would do with moving forward at this time if people were currently on 1-year contracts. At this time, we just decided that they would continue on a 1-year contract. I think in the past, there were some where people were offered a multi-year contract, and teachers, and I will say this, I was a teacher here in this district too at one time, but teachers are not on more than 2-year contracts here. It's rare that districts do that. I will tell you there are some of our neighboring, but not many, that do more than 2. But there are some if they've been there for a long time. And as far as that goes, Mr. Martin to speak on that. I've not had that brought to my attention of someone being, they just are glad they have that they're having a contract with the district and excited to continue employment in LaPorte. Dr. Jackson, I don't know if there's anything else you want me to add to that. Okay, all right.
So we were running against that, like, my colleague over here gets a 3-year contract in Deer Park. We don't, that's not a competitive advantage, but, because I'm not in this world, so I mean, does that not create problems?
But probably a 30-year veteran teacher, though. And you stay in
Teacher coach.
leadership for all that time. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And so that same teacher here even, in 2 or 3 years would be on that, that opportunity.
The two-term contract.
And they would be there for the rest of their career.
Yes.
Someone here, like, so somebody, the new teacher that goes to Deer Park, they're not gonna get a 3-year contract.
No, they would start on probationary contract.
If they, in fact, when they leave those multi-year contracts anywhere,
Yeah.
they're gonna go to a probationary.
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the best, a 1-year term.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's pretty consistent across the board now. It used to be all over the place, but it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of discussion about that, just looking at, being consistent and also just thinking about honoring our principals and what they're recommending, or department leaders. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions on item 10C? Okay, board, seek a motion. Ms. Thompson made a motion to approve. Seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Call for the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you, board. We'll go to item 11, action on closed session items. We do not have any, so we'll go to item 12, closing comments of the board trustees and superintendent. A, attendance at recent district and community events. B, announcement of upcoming district and community events. And C, outstanding performance by district staff and students. Board, any comments?
It was nice to see all the LPISD in the Sylvan Beach Day Parade.
Yes.
Or junior high, Lomax Junior High, their football programs are out there, high school football programs, cheerleaders, all kinds of other different organizations. It's really a cool thing.
We'll represent boys have a playoff game Saturday at noon, Deer Park against Bartlesville. So hopefully people will get out to see that.
It's gonna be hot.
It is gonna be hot.
I want to congratulate our newest colleague, Mr. Danny Hanks, for joining us. We're a crazy group, but everybody here cares tremendously about sport, man. I know you do too, so we're honored to have you. Also congratulate all the new hires and promotions. You guys are very well deserving. I'm excited to work with y'all. I also would like to reiterate, just so the chamber we get to put on the parade, the festival, everything. We're so honored to have. I've heard so many comments how thankful they were that all the schools were represented. I believe 3 of the schools were the ones that won the parade category, right? So we appreciate the encouragement to get them involved, and certainly all the people that made that happen. Also, not to embarrass him, but I want to congratulate or thank Principal Loudermilk. He and I attended a Youth for Christ event. That was like a month ago. It was last week. But he has a passion to bring Youth for Christ and campus life to DeWalt Academy. And I appreciate Dr. Jackson, your willingness to kind of let him explore that. We're excited to see where that leads us. And last but not least, the Chamber is holding a National Day of Prayer. It's our 5th annual. This Thursday, we moved it this year to the Sylvan Beach Depot Museum, the train depot right there by Sylvan Beach Park. And I mention it because Dr. Jackson has graciously agreed to be one of our, I call it presenters, I guess. But he's going to pray over a specific aspect. Prayer warrior, there you go. We have a couple of local pastors and a worship leader and Dr. Jackson to kind of come and pray over our community. So if you guys don't do anything at 8 o'clock Thursday morning, we'd love to have you.
I wanted to mention, I attended the LaPorte Livestock Show and Rodeo auction, and it was very well attended. Kids raised a lot of money, and it was really great to see all their hard work come to fruition, and the different things that they built, the different things that they baked, the different things that they made, and of course all the animals and all that stuff. Anyway, it was a very fun night. It was well organized and well attended, and it's always good to see the kids doing their thing. That's all. was gonna talk about the parade, but we already got.
I'm sorry, I wasn't very organized tonight, sorry. But I did have the opportunity to speak at Lomax Elementary, their career day this past Thursday. That was my first time on that campus, and it's a beautiful campus. The staff was amazing, and the kids were fantastic. They were very interested, very engaged, and it was awesome to see. It really just creates a real sense of synergy there. So we're doing great things at Lomax Elementary for sure. So.
I did the same thing for College Park a couple years ago, which was my alma mater, so I always enjoy going back to that campus. But we did talk a lot about how my industry that I work in, how that relates to STEM, and if you're interested in those kinds of things, that's a great career path, to kind of give them that direction. They love seeing people return to the school that have been there. I was across from my third grade class and was like, I was right there and all. So that's just a fun experience to do. I highly recommend that next year for anyone who hasn't participated in those before. They're really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I want to echo Mr. Martin's comments to you, Mr. Hanks. Welcome to the board, to this team of 8. When I look at these 4 characteristics that we got tonight, focus on relationships, commitment to growth, passion for results, and pursuit of innovation. That's why I see in every single member up here, every board member, Dr. Jackson, and I know you will add to that as well. And so I welcome you and your service, and look forward to working with you here. I also want to say congratulations to our new hires. Y'all will do an excellent job. I know you have some big shoes to fill, but I know each and every one of you are up to the task. And speaking of those big shoes, I would be amiss to mention Miss Cindy Anderson, Yvonne Bennett, Mike Clausen, Danette Tilley, and then the Wadley. I don't know if we have a perfect time to say this, but I want to say this tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for your years of service, your kindness, your commitment to this district, your experience, your institutional knowledge. I can just go on and on. And I just want to thank each and every one of you. I want to say this publicly. I want to say it to each and every one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. On behalf of this board, thank you for each and every one of you for your service and commitment to our community and to our students here at Porte ISD. And with that, I'm going to stand up and thank each and every one of you. And with that, item 13 will adjourn at 9:30 p.m.